The younger attendees, a plan that would ultimately lead to a night of chaos and tragedy. As the evening unfolded, the atmosphere at the North Stockton Surf Club grew increasingly volatile. Music blared from the speakers, blending with the sound of crashing waves, as teenagers mingled under the dim glow of the moonlight. The party, which began as a simple celebration, soon spiraled into an unpredictable gathering where the boundaries of safety were blurred and innocence was lost. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Lee, who had been enjoying the festivities with her friends, found herself in a precarious situation. Accounts from that night indicate that alcohol flowed freely, despite the absence of adult supervision. The lack of oversight created an environment where vulnerable young partygoers were left exposed to the intentions of those seeking to exploit the situation. By the time Lee's mother arrived to pick her up, the party had descended into chaos. Panic-stricken, she searched frantically through the crowd, calling her daughter's name, but Lee was nowhen terribly wrong. The investigation that ensued was fraught with challenges. The police, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the unfolding events, struggled to piece together the truth from the myriad of conflicting witness statements of tranquility, was now gripped by fear and suspicion as the details of that fateful night began to emerge. Matthew Webster and Guy Wilson, the self-appointed gatekeepers of the party, became central figures in the investigation. Their involvement and the extent of their culpability were scrutinized under the harsh light of public opinion. As the inquiry deepened, the focus shifted to uncovering the intricate web of deceit and manipulation that had ensnared Lee and others that night. Lee's mother, driven by an unwavering determination to seek justice for her daughter, became an outspoken critic of the police's handling of the case. Her voice, filled with a potent mix of grief and anger, resonated throughout the nation, capturing the attention of those who demanded accountability and reform. The safety and well-being of young people in environments where oversight and protection were sorely lacking. The tragedy served as a catalyst for change, prompting communities to reevaluate the systems in place to safeguard their youth. Ultimately, the events of that night in March 1989 serve as a somber reminder of the fragility of innocence and the profound impact of collective responsibility. In the wake of tragedy, the quest for truth becomes a beacon of hope, guiding the way towards a future where the lessons of the past shape a more vigilant and compassionate society. In the heart of a seemingly innocent gathering, the night unfolded with a sinister undercurrent, as youthful exuberance gave way to a darker, more chaotic scene. The setting was a party filled with adolescents, most of whom were not yet of age to drink legally, yet indulged freely in alcohol and marijuana. This potent mix of youthful recklessness and intoxicants brewed an atmosphere ripe for disaster. The absence of adult oversight compounded the situation, allowing the night to unravel unchecked. As a band played energetically, what began as a lively celebration quickly descended into disarray, driven by the guests' youthful indiscretion and heavy intoxication. The veneer of festivity was soon shattered as fights erupted and inappropriate behavior became rampant. Among the revelers was Lee, a 14 consumed copious amounts of whiskey, tempered only by the sweetness of Coca-Cola. As the evening wore on, her condition deteriorated. Witnesses described her as visibly impaired, stumbling and struggling to maintain her balance without assistance. In this vulnerable state, she became an easy target in the chaos that ensued. The night took a chilling turn when Lee was led, or perhaps coerced, away from the safety of the crowd. The details of this departure remain murky, but it is known that a 15-year-old boy guided her to the solitude of the nearby sand dunes. Here, under the cloak of darkness, the boy harbored intentions far removed from innocence. Conflicting accounts swirl around the nature of their interaction, but given Lee's age and compromised state, any notion of consent is rendered moot. Witnesses later attested to her impaired condition, underscoring her inability to make informed decisions. Lee's return to the party was a haunting tableau of distress. She was visibly shaken, her demeanor marked by panic and the fear of an unwanted pregnancy. Blood stained her clothing, and her cries of pain and anguish pierced the night. In a moment of desperation, she called out the name of her assailant, a cry that went largely unheeded by those around her. As the grim narrative of her ordeal spread among the partygoers, a disturbing opportunism emerged. Some boys, rather than offering solace, saw in Lee's vulnerability a chance to exploit her further. Guy Wilson, among others, approached her with propositions, which she rebuffed. The rejection only fueled a crueler assault. A group of boys, including Lee. In a display of callousness, they threw her to the ground, subjected her to kicks, spat upon her, and drenched her with beer. Insults and derogatory names rained down upon her as laughter echoed from the sidelines, where bystanders watched, indifferent to her suffering. Lee, summoning what strength remained, managed to escape her tormentors, but not without further humiliation. As she fled, a glass bottle was hurled in her direction, a final act of cruelty in a night filled with them. Later, as the clock edged toward 10:30 in the evening, Lee was observed leaving the party's confines, heading towards the beach alone. Her departure did not go unnoticed. Matthew Webster, whose intentions were ag forensic evidence and Webster's eventual confession, painting a portrait of horror. In the secluded embrace of the sand dunes, Lee was subjected to an assault of unimaginable brutality. The isolation of the dunes provided a backdrop where the echoes of her suffering were swallowed by the night. Here, in this desolate space, the darkness of human nature was laid bare, underscoring the fragility of innocence amidst a world capable of profound cruelty. As the night drew to a close, the harsh reality of Lee's experience lingered, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of youth and the depths of human depravity. In the quiet shadows of an unassuming beach, a dark chapter unfolded, leaving an indelible mark on the sands of time. Here, in the cover of night, violence and malice converged in an act of unspeakable horror. Reports reveal that a man named Matthew, possibly aided by others, committed an atrocity against a young woman named Lee. This was no ordinary act of violence. It was a calculated assault that stripped Lee of her dignity and humanity. The chilling account begins with Lee, perhaps in a desperate plea for help, letting out a scream that shattered the night's silence. In a brutal attempt to silence her, Matthew is believed to have forced sand into her mouth, an act that not only suffocated her cries, but symbolically buried her voice beneath the weight of cruelty. The horror did not end there. The violence escalated with the use of a broken beer bottle, a weapon of opportunity that inflicted unimaginable pain and left Lee with severe injuries. Forensic evidence paints a grim tableau of the suffering she endured in her final moments, each detail a testament to the brutality of the assault. As the reality of their actions dawned upon them, Matthew A., threatening to unravel their lives should Lee survive to tell her tale. In a desperate bid to silence her forever, Matthew's eyes fell upon a large rock, heavy and deadly. Lee lay injured, her body a canvas of pain, as Matthew stood over her. With the rock in hand, he delivered blow after merciless blow to her head. The force of his strikes was such that her skull fractured and brain tissue was exposed, a final violent act that ensured her silence. The scene left behind was one of devastation. Blood splatters marked the sand, reaching as far as 9 feet from where her body lay, a silent testament to the ferocity of the attack. As the night deepened, Lee's mother and stepfather arrived to collect her, unaware of the nightmare that had transpired. Their search yielded no trace of her, and with hope that she had perhaps sought refuge with a friend, they returned home, unknowing of the tragedy that had befallen their daughter. His heart heavy with dread, he traversed the sand dunes near the party site, a mere 330 feet from where the celebration had turned sinister. It was there that he made the harrowing discovery of Lee's lifeless body, a moment that would forever haunt those who loved her. The scene was a portrait of despair as emergency services and investigators descended upon the area, transforming it into a crime scene. An autopsy would later confirm the cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head, with a skull fractured so severely that it bore witness to the savagery of the attack. Yet, investigators noted an anomaly. Wounds from multiple angles suggested the possibility of more than one assailant. Beyond the head trauma, Lee's body bore the marks of a sustained and vicious assault. Her ribs, liver, and kidneys revealed damage consistent with repeated blows. Evidence of asphyxiation was present, with hemorrhaging indicating strangulation or compression of the neck. The brutality extended to injuries inflicted upon her genital area, where the insertion of a broken beer bottle had caused tearing and internal bleeding. Sand forced into her mouth, and airways underscored the depth of her suffering. In the aftermath of such profound loss, one is left to ponder the darkness that can reside within the human soul. This tragedy, shrouded in night and silence, compels us to reflect on the fragility of life and the enduring hope that justice, though sometimes delayed, will ultimately prevail. In the shadowed recesses of a coastal town, a chilling discovery sent ripples of fear through the community. Lee, a young soul with a promising future, was found partially clothed, her lifeless body surrounded by a sea of crimson evidence. The scene spoke of a brutal and prolonged struggle, a testament to the violence that had unfolded. Law enforcement quickly deduced that the savagery of the crime suggested the involvement of more than one perpetrator. As the news of the heinous act spread, it gripped the public's imagination. The media, ever eager for a sensational story, seized upon the grisly details. Lee's unusual name, her tender age, and the sheer brutality of the attack captured the attention of the masses, creating a palpable pressure for swift justice. In response, law enforcement embarked on an exhaustive investigation, a meticulous effort to unravel the mystery of Lee's death. The first step was to reconstruct the timeline of events leading to that fateful night. The crime scene was methodically secured, and forensic experts scoured the area for any shred of evidence that could point to the culprits. Investigators conducted interviews with approximately 150 individuals, seeking clarity amidst a fog of rumors, inconsistent accounts, and troubling memory gaps. A significant hurdle emerged in the form of a disconcerting silence from the parents of the teenagers who had attended the party where Lee was last seen alive. This silence, a barrier to truth, was compounded by the reluctance of underage partygoers to divulge critical details, fearing repercussions for illicit activities such as underage drinking and drug use. The atmosphere of secrecy was further thickened by parents actively discouraging their offspring from cooperationally confessed to fabricating their statements, and whispers of parental pressure to maintain silence echoed through the community. Thus, vital witnesses and potentially culpable parties remained beyond the reach of accountability. In their quest for truth, detectives focused their scrutiny on the male attendees of the ill-fated gathering. Several suspects were compelled to provide blood samples and surrender the garments they had donned that night. Among those questioned was Matthew Webster, whose actions and words would soon come under intense examination. The investigators also seized cameras from the party, scrutinizing the photographs for any signs of deception or inconsistency. One such image captured Matthew, and therein lay a crucial inconsistency. The clothing he had submitted did not match what he was wearing in the photo. This discrepancy cast a shadow of doubt upon his narrative. Further complicating Matthew's situation were witness accounts placing him in pursuit of Lee as she ventured into the dunes after leaving the party. This revelation prompted investigators to intensify their questioning of Matthew, probing the veracity of his alibi for that pivotal night. 3 months after the tragic loss of Lee, under relentless pressure from authorities and confronted with mounting evidence, Matthew's facade began to crumble. Initially steadfast in his denial, he eventually capitulated, confessing to his involvement. His admission was laced with unsettling details, painting a harrowing picture of the events that had transpired. In the end, the quest for justice was not merely about holding those responsible accountable, but about understanding the depths of human darkness and the fragility of innocence. As the community grappled with the aftermath, they were left to ponder the complexities of truth and the shadows that linger in its pursuit. In the shadowy periphery of a suburban venue, a tragic narrative unfolded, marked by a chilling sequence of events that would forever alter the lives entwined in its web. Matthew, an acquaintance of Lee, recounted a fateful evening where he observed her traversing the verdant expanse near a car park's edge. His voice, a distant echo in the night, warned her against venturing further. Yet according to his testimony, Lee's response was a defiant dismissal, a moment that would precede a cascade of irreversible actions. Ending her seated upon the grass, vulnerable and alone. His intentions, dark and foreboding, culminated in an assault that would escalate into unimaginable brutality. As they moved into the obscuring embrace of nearby bushes, Matthew began to strip away her defenses, both physical and metaphorical. When Lee resisted, her pleas met with his unyielding aggression. The night spiraled into chaos. In a moment of lost humanity, he strangled her, ending her life with the savage strike of a rock. Matthew's admission of murder was unequivocal, leading to his immediate arrest and subsequent charges. Yet, amidst his confessions, there lingered an unsettling silence concerning the alleged sexual assault involving a broken bottle, a sinister detail that investigators failed to explore fully. This omission in the narrative left a haunting question. If Matthew wasn't the sole perpetrator of all her injuries, who else bore the stain of culpability? As the investigation unfurled, attention turned to a 15-year-old boy whose involvement added a layer of complexity to the case. The boy, shielded by the anonymity of youth, faced the legal system's scrutiny. Initially sentenced to a 6-month term in a juvenile detention facility, his punishment was later mitigated to a mere 100 hours of community service upon appeal. The court's decision reflected a paucity of conclusive evidence regarding the sexual assault allegations, a decision that left many aspects of the incident shrouded in ambiguity. The narrative thread then wove through the actions of Guy Wilson, an 18-year-old whose aggression at the party had been palpable. By his own admission, he had subjected Lee to a torrent of humiliation and physical assault, actions that included pouring beer over her, spitting, and a failed attempt to hurl a bottle. Despite these admissions, Guy was granted bail, a temporary reprieve that he marred with a reckless threat against Lee's younger sister. This threat ignited a confrontation with Brad, Lee's stepfather, whose protective instincts culminated in an altercation with Guy. The details of their encounter remained largely undisclosed, yet the repercussions were significant enough to lead to legal consequences for Brad. In court, Brad acknowledged his actions, receiving a 12-month good behavior bond without a recorded conviction, a decision heavily influenced by the emotionally charged context of the situation. Ultimately, Guy faced the judicial system for his actions against Lee, resulting in a sentence of 100 hours of community service. Meanwhile, Matthew Webster, having pleaded guilty to the murder, circumvented the ordeal of a public trial. Yet his plea left a critical void as he continued to repudiate any involvement in the sexual assault involving the broken bottle, leaving an unresolved enigma hanging over the proceedings. In the aftermath, as the dust settled over a community grappling with the echoes of violence, the story remains a somber reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of human interactions. The unresolved questions and the fragmented truths serve as a testament to the complexity of justice and the enduring quest for closure in the face of profound loss. In the shadowed corridors of truth and justice, a chilling tale unfolds, a tale marked by unanswered questions and the haunting specter of injustice. Lee's tragic story begins with a shattered glass bottle, the weapon that inflicted severe injuries and left a trail of devastation in its wake. Yet, as the investigation commenced, a troubling possibility emerged. Was another hand, or perhaps many, involved in this heinous act? Witnesses recounted seeing Matthew and Guy departing the surf club together on that fateful night. Their testimonies cast doubt on the singular narrative that would soon dominate the legal proceedings. Neither Guy Wilson nor a 15-year-old implicated in an earlier assault on Lee could furnish credible alibis during the critical hours surrounding her death. Despite these glaring inconsistencies, the investigation appeared to falter, failing to probe deeper into these potential leads. Forensic evidence and eyewitness accounts hinted at a conspiracy, a sinister collaboration that perhaps involved more than one individual in the events that culminated in Lee's untimely demise. Yet the legal machinery focused narrowly on the charge of murder, leaving the harrowing details of sexual assault unaddressed. This omission, many argue, represents a profound miscarriage of justice, as those present at the party evaded accountability for this grievous aspect of the crime. Matthew's confession, though central to the case, is widely perceived as incomplete. He stood alone, charged and convicted in connection with Lee's death, receiving a 20-year prison sentence with a non-parole period of 14 years. After serving 14.5 years, his release on parole in June 2014 rekindled public outcry over the investigation's handling. Critics questioned the integrity of evidence management and the apparent reluctance to explore other suspects. Allegations surfaced of mistreatment of Matthew and others by the investigating authorities, further tarnishing the process. The delayed murder charge against Matthew, despite early awareness of his deceit, compounded the family's grief. In their eyes, justice was not served. They remained disheartened by the lack of convictions, as those who assaulted Lee that night largely escaped justice. Their anguish fuels a relentless pursuit of more thorough and earnest investigations in cases of sexual assault and murder, striving to shield other families from similar heartache. To this day, the silence persists. No others have faced the scales of justice for the abhorrent acts committed against Lee. In the quiet aftermath, a family's sorrow echoes, urging society to reflect on its commitment to truth and the relentless pursuit of justice for all.